She took everything. I took her future. A chilling statement, wasn't it? But trust me, you haven't heard the half of it. Hey everyone, Alden here. 42 years carved not just on my face, but etched deep into my soul. Until recently, I was a golden god in the finance world. Or, at least, I played one convincingly. Turns out, my life was a meticulously crafted stage set, the final act of betrayal worthy of a Greek tragedy. And Serafina, my ex-wife, she wasn't just playing a villainess, she was the villainess, with Olivier-level dedication. 14 years. 14 years bled dry. My mom, bless her stubborn, Ohio-bred soul, always possessed this uncanny perception. Operates a quaint antique store back home, amongst dusty furniture and whispered histories. She sees things, digs beneath the veneer. Perhaps that's why she pegged Serafina as a predator from day one. Alden, that girl's after your money. I'm telling you, she'd warn, her voice laced with a premonition I foolishly dismissed. Famous last words, aren't they always? Serafina and I met at a finance conference in Chicago. I was pontificating about emerging markets, desperately trying to appear more knowledgeable than I truly was. She sat in the front row, radiating allure. Confidence weaponized, perhaps? Perfect blonde hair, eyes that locked onto mine as if I held the secrets of the universe. After my presentation, she glided over, complimented my unique insights, and handed me a business card. Strategic Partnerships, it elegantly stated, beneath a logo for a company I'd never encountered. Turns out, she was a professional networker, a socialite with a Rolodex crammed with millionaires, flitting from deal to deal, connecting the powerful and pocketing a hefty commission. I was drawn to her like a moth to a blinding flame. She was everything I wasn't, gregarious, charismatic, effortlessly magnetic. I was the workaholic, buried in spreadsheets and market analysis, perpetually planning 10 moves ahead. She lived for the moment, for Dom Perignon-soaked brunches and impulsive weekend getaways to Cabo. We balanced each other, I naively convinced myself. She loosened me up, and I provided stability. Or so I thought. The financial ballast. You see the iceberg looming, don't you? The wedding was an obscene display of wealth. Napa Valley Vineyard, string quartet imported from Vienna, enough exotic flowers to bankrupt a small nation. My mom, battling a silent war with the floral arrangements, muttered darkly about the sheer decadence. Serafina, naturally, was the radiant centerpiece, captivating everyone with her dazzling smile and seemingly genuine interest. I recall thinking, watching her work the room, this is it. This is the genesis of something extraordinary. A chilling thought now. And for a while, it appeared to be. My career detonated. The relentless hours, the crushing pressure, the soul-numbing stress, it all bore fruit. We acquired a brownstone in Brooklyn, gutted it, and filled it with aggressively priced art and designer furniture. Serafina supported me, hosted networking soirees at our residence, charmed my colleagues, and schmoozed my clients. I was too engrossed in ascending the corporate ladder to perceive the subtle changes. The spa days escalated in frequency, the designer handbags and expense. She vanished for days, weeks even, with her networking companions, women who seemed to exist solely to shop, gossip, and have their images plastered across society pages. Her excuses became increasingly flimsy, her explanations riddled with holes. The first true tremor was a series of peculiar charges on our credit card. Conference expenses, she'd declare, dismissing my concerns with a wave of a perfectly manicured hand. Then the late nights commenced, the hushed phone conversations in the hallway, the increasingly complex passwords safeguarding her phone. Work, she'd hiss, her voice strained, her eyes darting away from mine. It's confidential. I desperately craved to believe her. I needed to believe her. But the insidious tendrils of apprehension had already begun to constrict around my heart. A silent alarm screaming in the back of my mind that I consciously ignored. One Tuesday, about 3 years ago, I arrived home early from the office. A crippling migraine, fueled by excessive caffeine consumption and a mountain of paperwork, rendered me temporarily incapacitated. The apartment was unnervingly silent. Usually, the cacophony of some reality television program would be emanating from the living room, or Serafina would be immersed in a conference call, orchestrating some obscure deal. But nothing. Just an eerie quiet. I discovered a note on the kitchen counter, scrawled in her distinctive, elegant handwriting. It was concise, glacial, and utterly devastating. She was abandoning me. She discovered someone else. Someone more her speed, as she so eloquently phrased it. A billionaire, to be precise. My blood ran cold. I stumbled into the bedroom, or what remained of it. Her closet was barren. Empty hangers swayed ominously in the draft from the open window. The jewelry box, normally overflowing with diamonds and pearls, was desolate, defeated. Even the photographs of us, the staged, airbrushed fabrications of our life, had been meticulously excised from the frames. Erased. She had systematically, meticulously, obliterated herself from my existence, as if I were a stain to be expunged. I accessed the bank accounts. Drained. The joint investment portfolios? Vanished. She had been meticulously planning this for months, possibly years, transferring assets and manipulating accounts while I was toiling away at the office, foolishly convinced we were constructing a future together. She was already gone, migrating to her new life. Sipping champagne on a super yacht in the Mediterranean, undoubtedly. A chilling vision. My mom telephoned that evening, her voice a complex tapestry of sympathy and barely concealed "I told you so" vindication. "I told you so," she cried, her voice cracking with emotion. I knew she was trouble from the start. I lacked the energy to engage in a debate. I merely terminated the call and stood there, gazing out the window at the city lights blurring through the tears that cascaded uncontrollably down my face. I was utterly, devastatingly alone. The billionaire, as it transpired, was Damien Thorn. Damien freaking Thorn, an old adversary of mine from the industry. We had clashed on numerous deals over the years, perpetually vying for the same acquisitions, the same lucrative contracts. He was ruthless, arrogant, and possessed an obscene surplus of wealth. Serafina had traded up, and she had orchestrated it with a vengeance. The humiliation was crushing. I felt like a complete and utter fool, a pawn in her elaborate, callous game. For a period, I succumbed to self-pity, medicating my pain with expensive whiskey and replaying the past in my mind, desperately searching for the warning signs I had so blatantly ignored. I lost weight, neglected basic hygiene, and generally embraced the persona of a pathetic, broken man. I was a shell of my former self. Then, something snapped. The fury, the treachery, the sheer audacity of her actions, it all coalesced into a white-hot rage that ignited a fierce fire within me. I refused to permit her victory. I refused to allow her to define me. I refused to allow her to transform me into a cautionary anecdote. A plan began to formulate, a dark, simmering brew of revenge and retribution. I commenced researching Damien's business operations. I became consumed. I dedicated countless hours scrutinizing financial reports, SEC filings, and industry publications. I leveraged my contacts, exploited my network, and delved deep into the treacherous underbelly of the financial world, unearthing secrets and concealed agendas. It was akin to a treasure hunt, except the treasure was the utter destruction of my enemies. I discovered that Thorn Industries had heavily invested in a novel, so-called revolutionary energy technology. They branded it Solaritech, and, as the name implied, it was solar-based. Green energy was the prevailing trend, and Damien had wagered his entire fortune on this venture. But the scientific foundation underpinning Solaritech was fundamentally flawed. The efficiency rates were abysmal, the production costs astronomical. It was a fragile house of cards, constructed on hype and inflated projections, teetering on the precipice of collapse. A ticking time bomb. I recognized my opportunity. I initiated quietly acquiring shares in Thorn Industries, meticulously avoiding triggering any alarms. I employed shell corporations, offshore accounts, every clandestine tactic in the book to conceal my identity and prevent Damien from apprehending what was transpiring. It was a delicate dance, a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. As I amassed more and more shares, a calculated plan began to materialize in my mind. It wasn't solely about revenge, not entirely. It was about justice. About demonstrating to Serafina the enormity of her misjudgment. About validating to myself that I remained a force to be reckoned with, that I hadn't lost my competitive edge. I vividly remember the day I attained the 50% threshold. The day I secured controlling interest of Thorn Industries. A slow, predatory smile spread across my face. The rules of engagement were about to be radically altered. The hunter was now the hunted. The following morning, I unleashed hell. I disseminated a press release, unveiling my ownership stake in Thorn Industries and announcing a comprehensive, independent investigation into Solara Tech's technology. The news reverberated through the market like a seismic event. Thorn Industries stock plummeted. Investors panicked and initiated a mass exodus. The media descended like vultures, and I possessed the best vantage point in the house. I presented my findings to the Securities and Exchange Commission, furnishing irrefutable evidence of fraud and deception. The SEC launched a formal inquiry. Damien Thorn was compelled to resign as CEO. His reputation was irrevocably tarnished. His fortune evaporated. He became a pariah. I observed it all unfold from my office, a subtle, almost imperceptible smile playing on my lips. It wasn't a moment of unadulterated elation. There was a sense of satisfaction, undoubtedly, but also a tinge of melancholy. I had dedicated months of my life to dismantling this man, a man who had been my adversary, the man who had usurped my place in Serafina's bed. The game was concluded. Now what? And then she called. Serafina. Her voice was transformed. Desperate. Pleading. She had abandoned Damien shortly after my announcement and was now residing in a dilapidated apartment in Miami, struggling to survive. She claimed she had committed a grave error, that she had realized what she had forfeited, that she missed me. She desired me back. I inhaled deeply, closed my eyes, and allowed the words to escape, each syllable dripping with glacial disdain. Goodbye, Serafina. A final, calculated blow. I terminated the call and felt a profound weight lift from my shoulders. The past was finally interred. I was free to advance, to construct something new. I reinvested my profits into a fledgling venture, a tech startup focused on genuinely sustainable renewable energy solutions. I learned from my prior failings, surrounded myself with trustworthy individuals, and constructed a company predicated on integrity and innovation. It was the antithesis of everything Damien Thorn represented. A phoenix rising from the ashes. My mom continues to operate her antique store back in Ohio. She contacts me weekly to check in, to dispense unsolicited advice, and to remind me, with a mischievous glint in her eye, that she had been prescient about Serafina all along. I don't object. I know she loves me. I remain uncertain about what the future holds. Perhaps I'll rediscover love, perhaps I won't. But one thing I know with absolute certainty, I'm more formidable, more knowledgeable, and more resilient than I ever conceived possible. The scars are there, yes, but they are a reminder of what I overcame. And that, I surmise, is the ultimate vengeance. Recognizing that I am who I am today as a consequence of all that I have endured. A quiet triumph. So, yeah, that's my narrative. A cautionary tale concerning trust, betrayal, and the exquisite, oh so exquisite satisfaction of, well, let's characterize it as financial justice. Don't ever permit anyone to underestimate you. And never, ever, underestimate the latent power of a meticulously crafted business plan. Or maybe revenge is a dish best served cold and calculated.